And hello and welcome one and all to the Games Monster podcast here as part of the Extremed.tv podcast network. So I welcome you everyone. This is a very exciting time of the year because it is E3 time. And my goodness, Microsoft and Xbox just had the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase, and it may have been the best showing from Microsoft for Xbox of all time. Now, let me reiterate that again. Xbox absolutely just knocked it out of the park, and it was absolutely loaded. As they put it at the end of the showcase, there were 30 games showed, 27 of them are coming to Xbox Game Pass, and at this stage, even if there are games on PlayStation 5, even if there are games for Nintendo Switch or whatever, to me, getting an Xbox with Game Pass is absolutely essential. It's a complete no-brainer. I mean, for the fact that you can play with Games Pass from the cloud, from your PC. Like, if you're a console gamer, then yeah, absolutely get an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series S. A lot of these you'll still be able to play on Xbox One X, but it's just absolutely outstanding. Like, the amount of good games here, and like obviously the Series X, you know, depending if you've got a PC that's capable of running Halo Infinite or not. If you play from the cloud, then obviously that's a different matter, but then it comes down to internet connection and everything. But let's just run through the games that they showed, and then we're going to break them down afterwards. This was like outstanding. I'm just going to go through them here. Forza Horizon 5, these aren't in the order they said them, it's just using the Xbox website as a cheeky way of going through them. Halo Infinite, Back for Blood, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Age of Empires 4, The Ascent, Psychonauts 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Hades, 12 Minutes, Among Us, Shredders, Sable. What else did we see? Show more. Let's bring up the rest. Hello Neighbor 2, Party Animals, A Plague Tale Requiem, Atomic Heart, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, Iridium Chronicle, and they actually showed like two of those games at once, so I'll bring up later what the other one was. Replaced, Somerville, Slime Rancher 2, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, now I'm just doing math, 17, 19, 22, 23. I may have to bring up my notes from elsewhere just because there's a few missing. They showed 27 games there, all coming to Game Pass. It's just absolutely extraordinary. But let's start obviously with some of the heavy hitters. Obviously the biggest heavy hitter of them all in terms of Xbox is Halo Infinite. Now, they did announce it's coming holiday 2021, which obviously is an entire year delay compared to what we were hoping and expecting, because we were thinking that Halo Infinite has to be the Xbox Series X launch title, and maybe it would have made a big difference to the Xbox's fortunes compared to the fact that the PS5 clearly is doing better in the sales if Halo Infinite had launched. But maybe it will just be the second coming of the Xbox Series X, and I think maybe if some people have been holding out for this, I think a lot of people after this year's E3 are going to be fully convinced that they need to jump on Team Xbox. Now, whether that's convert to Team Xbox and leave PlayStation 5 behind, or if it's just that they need to get an Xbox in their life, then I think a lot of people are going to do this, and this is where I think that we're going to see Microsoft's plan. Because you can get Xbox Game Pass for PC, you can get it, you know, for the cloud, you can get it if you've got an Xbox Series S, you can get it for if you've still got Xbox One X even, and just be able to play Halo Infinite. A lot of criticism came in before for the graphics, but this looks absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I'll see what if like other people will break things down better than I can, but to me this looked exactly what I want from the next Halo game. It looks fast. The multiplayer, going to be free to play here. That's what they'd already announced, but multiplayer, campaign, both coming at the same time. So imagine free to play. So I should imagine that means even if you don't have Game Pass, you can get in on it. And then obviously everyone will want to go for the campaign as well, and be able to play it, and be able to do that day one. And it looks absolutely astonishing. The storyline looks interesting as well. Like, I'm not huge into the Halo universe, but I've always enjoyed them when I've played them. Obviously, Cortana, they shown that Cortana is missing. I can't remember, to be honest, from Halo 5 a few years ago, if that was some sort of cliffhanger that Cortana is been turned against or meant to be been destroyed. But now there's a new AI that's going with Master Chief, and they obviously track down Cortana. But just the world of it, they said about it being the biggest world that they've created, the biggest maps and everything to go across. They showed multiplayer, so there's going to be all of the action that you'd want with the vehicles. There'll be capture the flag and deathmatch modes, and like, this looks an absolute barn burner of a game. I think this is going to be the killer app for the Xbox. This is going to obviously get the most hype. This and Forza for like the holidays this year are going to be the two big reasons that Microsoft are going to say to buy Xbox. And it's going to be interesting just because obviously Sony are not doing any E3 this year. It's so weird that, so it's going to be interesting to see how they answer this. Obviously Sony always have a lot, but this is quite a thing that they're going to have to answer to. Forza Horizon 5, absolutely incredible graphics. They had some of the developers talk about the fact that they filmed the sky in 12K, and then like the sky constantly reflects. Now that was something that was interesting to me, because if the sky is the actual sky filmed at 12K, and does that mean that I can't remember how long they said they filmed it for, or how it quite works, but if the reflections and everything's going to react to the actual sky, and it will give different lighting conditions. It looks an absolutely incredible game. The graphics of Forza Horizon 5 are just an absolute showcase of what the Xbox Series X can do, the power of it. And obviously, yeah, we're still at the time where things are, in a sense, going to be held back, scalable to the Xbox Series S and the Xbox One, obviously. Although I think Flight Simulator may be something that's Xbox Series exclusive, and it won't be on the Xbox One series of games consoles. But like, they showed off Forza Horizon 5, and this looks fun. If you're a fan of the Forza games, this looks just like them, but taken to the next level. They showed off that it's got the biggest open world that they've done, and that's one of the things which every year it's like, what can you do? You can improve the graphics, you can improve the lighting, you can tweak the gameplay, but one of the big things is always making it a bigger world to explore. And this looks great, just being able to drive different vehicles, drive off-road, different terrain types, going around mountains. We were seeing, I think, volcanoes in the trailers, all kinds of goodness. I think Forza Horizon 5 looks incredible. Obviously, they did show off Flight Simulator. Now, that says it's coming to console and PC, so that obviously won't be available on the cloud. Let me just double check that. Yeah, it's not going to be available on the cloud. And from what I understand, it says available with Xbox Game Pass, and for PC, available for Xbox Series X and S and from July 27th. Windows 10 PC, so that isn't coming to Xbox One. Now, you think if the Xbox Series games consoles came out, was it November last year, I believe? If we're now going to be into July before we get the first game which is skipping over, coming out onto the older generation. I think Microsoft did say about, at least for the first year, oops, I hope that's not going to ding me, just bring up the trailer just to see a couple of things in the background as I tell you about it. But this is pure flight simulator. It's one of the long-running Microsoft franchises. It's one of the things that's been a staple of what they put out for PCs. I think it appeals to a certain kind of person. The fact that this, that Game Pass is a thing now and I'll be able to play this no extra cost, I look forward to giving it a go. Flight simulator, obviously it is a flight simulator, so it's not going to be shooting and stuff, but if you are a fan of Pilot Wings and want like the more serious take on just enjoying flying than that, the graphics of this are mind-blowingly good. You see cityscapes, I'm just looking at this now, and just being able to, I wonder, you don't obviously want to crash, and I'm sure it won't let you crash into things, but I just want to get as close to the ground as possible just to see the level of detail. But from the high in the sky views of stuff, the landscapes, this looks like what I could be seeing outside of a plane window or a helicopter window. It's absolutely brilliant graphics. So that's Flight Simulator, and that's going to be coming to PC and Xbox, but obviously only the Series X and Series S. Age of Empires 4 is coming to PC. We'll double check that if that's on Game Pass. I believe everything was Game Pass. So, oops, that's where are we getting it? Where are we getting it? Learn more. Okay, let's bring this up. Age of Empires, and yeah, platform Windows 10 PCs. It doesn't say. Does it say Age of Empires Xbox? Well, Game Pass for PC. So it's still on Game Pass. If this is your type of game, it's not exactly my type of game, but again, Game Pass. It just means this is one of the smart things about Game Pass, is that it gives people the chance to try things that they'd think, oh, I don't think I'm going to get into that. I've not played the previous Age of Empire games, but just the graphics they're showing here, again, look brilliant. I always feel that, the real-time strategy games, they've never been quite for me. I prefer more action games. I don't want to have to spend ages learning a new system. But I'll give this a go, certainly, just because, again, Game Pass means that I can do that quite comfortably without having to even buy like an old game secondhand. I'm sure you can get things on the Microsoft Store, Steam, or wherever you get them, and you can think, oh, I'll just take a chance on this. But now you can take a chance without having to pay any more as long as you have Game Pass. Psychonauts 2. So this is something exciting. We've been waiting a ridiculous amount of time for Psychonauts 2. And the first one, great game from many, I haven't played it in so many years, but this looks just as crazy, and it looks like a kind of game which adds good variety to the Xbox platform, especially coming for Microsoft as an exclusive. Xbox Series 1, Xbox Series X rather, Series S, Xbox One, Windows PC, and let's see, do we have a release date? August 25th, 2021. This looks really ridiculous and crazy humour. The first one was always said about it's one of the games that's got the best sense of humour in it. And this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, so looking forward to that as well. The Ascent, PC, console and cloud. And the Ascent, if you haven't heard of this before, the trailers and gameplay, they're going to make me have to put in my date of birth. How very weird. So second, just put anything in. Third, and what year shall we be born today? Let's take it back, 1988. That will make me old enough. I'm actually a little bit older than that, but it doesn't matter to me. So, action shooter RPG in a cyberpunk world. Where does this sound familiar? Yeah, it's not cyberpunk, though. This looks really good. A nice serious shooter, not that the Xbox doesn't have a ton of these. And again, if this is your type of game, I'm sure you'll get a lot out of this. There's so many games coming to the Xbox, and obviously to PCs. They announced Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now this is interesting. Yakuza Like a Dragon, obviously it was one of the games that when the Xbox Series X launched, people were hyped up about. The fact now, and this is one of the things where it's like, well, is that a bad thing? The fact now that it's available as of yesterday on Xbox Games Pass, there's going to be some people who are going to be like, well, shoot, I bought this in November, and realistically, I know like the world moves very quick, but realistically, when we're now into June, and it's like, well, yeah, you bought Game Pass in November, you bought Yakuza Like a Dragon in November, you might have bought Game Pass for a year, and as it turns out, having Yakuza Like a Dragon, you spent 50, 60, 70 pounds, dollars, whatever your currency is. You could have just waited and gotten it included on Game Pass. So that's the interesting thing, because it also means it's got no resale value either. And this is one of the interesting things with Game Pass. 27 games they showed yesterday coming to Game Pass. It's like, I'm not going to be able to play that many games in the year. And there are some people who will be like, well, like, okay, going back when I was younger, there'd be times where I'd play an awful lot of games, but my record, and this, you can perhaps say this is something sad in a sense, I completed 52 games in a year, so that is effective. Was it 54? But either way, I'd managed to complete a game a week. And as a challenge for myself, some of them, and now this was in the era where I was still playing, so I'm trying to think, this was the early 2000s, and I was playing games onto retro consoles. This was including games for like the Mega Drive, Genesis for our US friends. This was including games still, like I was going through the back catalogue of games on the Amiga 1200. This was stuff, yeah, still for the N64, PlayStation 1, and I was seeking out what games can I complete quick, because before we had achievements, before we had trophies, just being able to complete games was its challenge in itself. So I was like, how many can I do this year? And that year I did the most that I'd ever done. The year after that I maybe did 20 something, and often there'd be years where I'd do 20 or 30, but within that there would be a lot of games that I'd play and not complete as well. And in more recent years, I'm lucky if I complete 10 games. I might play a lot of different games, but getting through them, just as you get older and there's other responsibilities in life, you don't have the same amount of time to play games. And also, you will get games where it's going to be like The Witcher or Skyrim or Breath of the Wild, and you just don't have time to play 50 of them in a year, and complete them, certainly not. So, with Game Pass giving you 30 games like this, 27 games that they showed yesterday, plus all of the other games on Game Pass. I only got Game Pass with the launch of the new generation, and it's like there's more games on there than I have time to play. And on top of that, I'm like, well, yeah, I would quite like Spider-Man Miles Morales, so that's PS4 or PS5. Resident Evil 8 wasn't on there, so that's another game, and that was at the top of my priorities list. And then, of course, I'm like, well, I do love my Nintendo games, and, you know, there was that new Mario Kart in the real world, and there was Mario 3D World, and there was whatever else, Animal Crossing, and so many other games coming out. And so it's like, well, I'm never going to be able to play them all. And obviously, having Xbox Game Pass gives you the opportunity, like I said, with something like Age of Empire or Flight Simulator, to play things that you perhaps wouldn't have played otherwise. And that might make you a fan of something going forward that you wouldn't have been a fan of otherwise. But for the fact that it's a Netflix-style subscription service, it's really interesting, just because, well, I'll be like, oh my god, I definitely want to get Age of Empires 5. I hope it's on Game Pass. And it's like, well, do they make any more money? Unless there are like expansions or DLC that you can buy extra, then are you actually going to go in? But anyway, Yakuza Like a Dragon, it's a game we've seen before. Obviously, it came out with the launch of the Xbox Series X and Series S, and it is still more of the action RPG. It's never quite understood why we've got so many Yakuza games, and it took so long to get Shenmue 3, because from the very first one. It's like, oh yeah, so this is just the Japanese mafia version of Shenmue, and I hope that isn't something inappropriate to say, but that's just what I remember it being described as at the time. So if that's a poor description of it, I apologise. They showed Hades and godlike, roguelike. Looks good. Looks a very exciting game, and let's see when that's coming out. August 13th, 2021. It's got more than 50 Game of the Year awards. So it's not a game actually. I think I may have heard of it somewhere along the past, but it's not something I've paid attention to. So this certainly gave it a showcase here. Let's make sure we're on. Yep, we're on mute. So let's check out what they show on the trailer. If it's going to load. If it's not going to load, I don't really care. It's like the graphics of it look good. Obviously, this isometric action gameplay. One artistic achievement, best game. Like, this is amazing that it's something I haven't came across. I don't know what platforms it's obviously been on before. I assume it's going to just come out on Steam or something. See what else we have now. 12 minutes was. Now, some of these, I'm going over pretty much all the games here, at least all of the ones that I can quickly bring up just to refresh my memory as I'm going over these. Forza, I will be playing. Halo, yes, I will be playing. Flight Simulator, Age of Empire, I'll give them a go, literally, because they're on Game Pass. Psychonauts 2, I'll be giving a go. Yakuza Like a Dragon, I played the original. And I may have played another Yakuza one along the way. But some of these, it's like, well, they're on Game Pass, so I'll give them a go. But some of them, I might not be. 12 minutes looked like the game where I was like, this is super interesting. And the fact that it's a time loop game, now obviously we had, Returnal for the PlayStation 5. So time loops may be a thing at the moment. Obviously you can go back, well, they all come from Groundhog Day, but there might be time loop based things before that. But what was that film? I can't remember it. Paradise something or whatever, I can't remember what it was called. But it was a Amazon film which came out in the last 2 or 3 months, which was set in a time loop. Majora's Mask obviously was the famous video game time loop game from many years ago, year 2000. But 12 minutes, a 12-minute time loop. Imagine being stuck in a 12-minute time loop. And also if there's bad things happening, like murders and kidnappings and whatever else they showed in the trailer. For some reason on the Xbox website it doesn't bring up, so you can bring up the trailer, which is a bit of a pain. But from what I remember of it, it looked very cool. They said about it having James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley. It says here Willem Dafoe is in it as well. A man stuck in a time loop. Now, I don't know what kind of length of the game this will have. I should imagine it's going to be something where there's maybe a few hours to it. An interactive thriller about a man stuck in a time loop. Because I don't think it's going to be something where it's like, well, play it for 1 hour and you've seen everything. So I don't know if the time loop will expand, but obviously being called 12 minutes, you think that it is going to stick to those 12 minutes. And like, you think if you're trying to just go out in the world, even if it's like, oh well, when you know where the key is or you know where the fire hatch is, you can go to these different places. If you can only go somewhere in a 12-minute radius, that's still going to limit how many places you can go. Among Us, everyone's favourite game that's been out for, gosh knows, when did Among Us first come out? 2018, but it blew up last year. It will now be coming to Xbox, from what we understand. It's going to be coming to PS5 as well. The thing about this, I didn't even realise this, because I've had it on my Switch since I think about January, or maybe the very end of last year. But it will be coming to Xbox. They said about that there's going to be new things that will celebrate the launch on the new consoles. I'm sure these will also be available for Switch, for PC. They said about new tasks, new skins, may have even more players on screen at once. I saw something which was about up to 15 players. So Among Us is always great, so that will be good fun to get that on the Xbox, and we'll give that a go. Shredders gave me lots of vibes of Cool Borders, Steep Slope Sliders. Anyone remember that for the Sega Saturn? 1080 snowboarding for the Nintendo 64. And gosh, I can't even remember. It just felt very retro to me, and maybe that's because I haven't always stayed up on the snowboarding craze. But I remember back in the day, PS1, PS2 era, then the snowboarding style games were all the rage. The extreme sports, before we hit the hype of like Tony Hawk's and all that. I'm pleased that something like this is still coming out, just because it's a sport which is a lot of fun. Sometimes the controls of these can be quite difficult. What was that one? Snowboard Kids, which was on the N64, and then I think they brought back on some other system later. Just depends how serious the controls are on this. If it's something where, I remember like 1080, it was like the graphics looked great, but it would constantly just crash and fumble. Whereas something like Snowboard Kids was a lot more Mario Kart. Now, obviously, this looks like the former rather than the latter, in that the graphics of it, once again, Xbox Series X, PC, wherever they're capturing the footage from, mind-blowing graphics. I mean, this obviously with a snowboard game, the snow effects are great. A lot of what you're looking at though is just white and snow. So, you know, in that sense, it looks the ticket. But just like the atmosphere, the snow particles, snow dust, I'm not quite sure what you'd call it, blowing up in the air. Shredders looks a lot of fun. When's this coming out? Does it say December 2021? So yeah, just because perhaps Christmas snowboard games often come out at the end of the year. If we've got a Winter Olympics, then it may tie into that as well. Obviously, we won't have a Winter Olympics for a couple of years, or is it a year? No, this is an interesting thing. Obviously, we haven't had the 2020 Olympics with Tokyo yet because of the pandemic. So we should have a 2022 Winter Olympics. So this might be big again in a year's time. So 2022, in fact, Winter Olympics. This would be coming out. There you go. So if this is coming out December, did I say 2021? Then the Winter Olympics should be shortly after that. Let's see what else we had. Sea of Thieves showing, and what was it? A Pirate's Life with Johnny Depp, or the Johnny Depp sound-alike. I don't think it was actual Johnny Depp. And I was pleased just because, obviously, I think there's a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, and they're saying that Johnny Depp isn't in it. And I know he's had controversies, and I'm definitely not going to get into that. But regardless, I think everyone's favourite character from those series of films, and the reason why those series of films is a big deal, is because of the Captain Jack Sparrow character. So just seeing the character represented here, voiced by Johnny Depp or not, is a lot of looks an exciting thing. I will be honest, as much as I love Rareware, I have not dived into Sea of Thieves yet, but this may actually inspire me to do so, just because, once again, Game Pass, and I love Rareware stuff, so always loved Rareware. Going back in the day, I loved one of the facts about it is I loved they were in the UK, and I loved that often then the UK would get their releases either earlier or day and date with other places. But also just loved their style of humour, thinking of Conker and Banjo and Donkey Kong Country and all this. So we know that that's all continued into Sea of Thieves. The style of gameplay didn't absolutely grab me, as I've got to play this, compared to if they'd said here's a new Banjo, I would have played that already. But Captain Jack Sparrow, this has put it back on my radar. Davy Jones is going to be in there. See what that new campaign is. Probably have to play some regular Sea of Thieves before that, and I think that's this month. Although I don't have the date here that I can see. No, I don't. Slime Rancher 2. I'll be honest, I wasn't familiar with Slime Rancher 1, and this was weird because I looked at this and there were like these little blobs, like they looked like those things you'd sit on as a kid that had got like the big ears, and you'd bounce along on them, and you were like sucking them into like a portal gun and then putting them in a cage and feeding them. I didn't really quite get it. I guess these were blobs of slime, but I'm sure if they're making a sequel, the first one probably did well enough. Let's see when that's coming out. And when does it say? It doesn't say when it's coming out. Doesn't say when it's coming out. How utterly disappointing. Let's see what else we've got though. Don't need to stick on that one for too long. We got Replaced. It says it's a modernised cinematic platformer set in an alternative 80s. Oh yes, this gave me ultra 80s vibes. So if you didn't see on the Extreme.tv website yesterday, I was doing a live blog of the press conference. I'll be doing... Whoops, I just dropped some stuff. I will be doing another one later today with more press conferences, or more presentations, as they're all pretty much now into the world of Nintendo Directs. Isn't that interesting? Whereas when Nintendo started the Directs, they were like, oh, these are cool. But when they were like, what, at E3 there's going to be a Nintendo Direct? It's an outrage. And obviously now we get state of plays and all this other kind of stuff from other companies. And now, obviously, because of the pandemic, they are all Nintendo Direct style presentations. So Nintendo was very ahead of the game there. What else do we have? Somerville, in the wake of catastrophe, you must find the means to make your family whole again. Sci-fi adventure grounded in the intimate repercussions of a large-scale conflict. I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I don't remember that one. You can't see the gameplay of it here. I'm not going to seek it out. You can see just about information of all of these on the Xbox website. You can go to their YouTube and see it all as well. Or you can go to Extreme.tv and you can see the whole presentation and be able to read the live blog that I put along the way. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. This looks incredible graphics and won't be out until next year. Let's see when it was, going by my notes. Let's just go to the website. April 28th, 2022. Good Hunting, Stalker. Award-winning PC franchise loved by millions of players is making a true next-generation console debut with Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. Once again, I can be honest, I haven't played Stalker 1, but this looks good. Again, this is an example, first-person shooter action. I'd have just seen this and I'd been like, oh yeah, it looks like Call of Duty kind of thing. And I might give a Call of Duty game a go here or there. I don't play all of them anymore, certainly, just because of time and that, I find them all a bit samey. Not that I don't enjoy them, but obviously they're very much about the multiplayer. I'm a little bit more of a solo player, like single player campaign kind of guy. This looks a lot of fun, and certainly I can give this a go because it's included with Game Pass, which is brilliant. Also, it helped me brush up on my Russian a little bit more. Now, Uridian, no, that's definitely not how it's pronounced. There's no R in it. See, and that would have been so good if that was correct. E-I-U, oh my god, E-I-Y-U, Euden, Euden Chronicle, 100 Heroes, and I'm sure they showed that another one will be coming out next year. Coming day one to Xbox Game Pass, coming 2023. That's insane. But I think they showed that there was another one. Became the #1 funded Kickstarter video game of 2020. Wow. Both games. So what's the other one? Will be, so the first one, Eiden Chronicle Rising, launching in 2022, followed by this one in 2023. They're both coming to Game Pass. So look at that, it's come to... See, that's going to be where a lot of their money's come from. Just because even if they got a huge amount on Kickstarter, suddenly Microsoft saying, like, we want it day one on Game Pass. They're paying for that. They are paying the big bucks for that, baby. Let's see, what else did we miss? Sable and Party Animals. Party Animals looked fun. It kind of... I couldn't quite get a feel for it. You go to battle and it looked like you're playing as a stuffed toy. And it said adorable animals, but literally to me it looked like a stuffed toy because they were all floppy and... it just looked like there were signs of extra violence in there than what... I feel like this was something that could be very Conker-like. It was a bit deceiving that the violence in it was getting a bit grittier. They showed them on like hobby horses, and they showed them just like tugging on each other and knocking them over, but then they showed them with crossbows. It showed them like knocking each other off the edge. So if this is like 3D Power Stone, Smash Brothers kind of thing, I'm not sure how many players you can have at once, see if we've got the information. But it showed them there was a thing throughout the trailer where it showed them at talent contests, and they're all gathered around a microphone, but then they got electrocuted and others got set on fire and blown up. It was getting more and more violent as it went on. So I don't know quite what to make of this. I'm sure it'll be fun. When's it coming out? Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Xbox One. Oh, is it not coming to PC? That's interesting, because so many of them are. But again, if you've got Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you can get any of these things. So if you have a PC and if you have an Xbox, you can just dive across. Hello Neighbor 2 is coming out as well, play day 1. But then the last one I'll focus on here for now, Plague Tale Requiem. Obviously they showed other games during this. They showed Far Cry 6. We'd seen that on the Ubisoft presentation. I might do another podcast based on the Ubisoft one, although with these things, you know, it's just having time because there's so many different things seen. So let's have a quick look here. A Plague Tale Requiem, and this is coming to Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Windows PCs. So this isn't coming to Xbox One, but I guess if it's not a Microsoft game, then it doesn't have to come to Xbox One. But it was great that they were showing that games created by third parties are going to be coming to Game Pass. I like that commitment. But again, it's just a weird thing for the industry, just because imagine if you've got PS5, then you're going to be like, well, I've got to pay £50-60 for a game, whereas I could pay £60-100, whatever it is. I definitely got it a lot cheaper. Because I look for special offers, and you can always find special offers. But if you get Game Pass cheaper, even if you're paying $50-60 for a year or whatever, versus paying it for a single game on PS5, then you're going to look at it, your PS5, and you're going to think, well, I should just probably bite the bullet and get an Xbox Series S, if nothing else, to sit next to my PS5, and then you'll be able to get this for free. Or imagine if you've got a PC, you'll feel like, well, yeah, I'm just going to get Xbox Game Pass. And realistically, even though there is still a physical Xbox, they're really making it so eventually they probably won't put out a physical Xbox, and maybe it will just go to the point that, well, yeah, you can get Xbox Game Pass for PS5. But that'll be interesting, because why would third parties do that? Because it'd then be Microsoft having to cut deals to get everything onto Game Pass, because otherwise Microsoft would have no incentive to get it onto Game Pass other than the fact that they'd sell more subscriptions. And maybe that works, but I don't know at what stage people would say, well, that's just unfair, like in a competitive sense, because this is just meaning that you can only play so many games in a year. And I felt that this Plague Tale Requiem, which itself is a sequel, I forget what the first one's called, again, it looks really exciting, and that's going to be out. When is that out? Only says 2022. But look at this, so many games I've gone over, probably 3 or 4 or 5 that I've forgotten about. Oh, Back 4 Blood. So obviously Left 4 Dead from the same developers. Now let's see what it says here. It says, from the creators of the critically acclaimed Left 4 Dead franchise. See, this was zombies as well. So is this not an official sequel? Is it a spiritual sequel? Why would it be a spiritual sequel if it's from the same developers? Is this... It was weird, just because absolutely there was no reason why this couldn't be like Left 4 Dead 3 or whatever, perhaps just calling it Back 4 Blood. Oopsie daisy, I'm going to get dinged in the background because I keep playing these trailers because I forget the details. So sorry about that. You keep hearing the Xbox noise. Hopefully that won't get me dinged, just because you can obviously share gameplay footage on on YouTube and what have you. This looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's definitely up my street. And let's see, October 12th, 2021, so not long to wait. Coming day one to Xbox Game Pass. I'm trying to think what else we got from Bethesda. Was there something? Because I feel like they showed off a couple of exclusives. Oh yeah, so Starfield. It was Starfield, wasn't it? Why haven't they got that on the Xbox website? That is like ridiculous. Like, Bethesda showed off. Let's just put in Bethesda. And let's see what we've got. So, oh yeah, like Fallout 76. They showed off the Doom is going to get an update. Like, loads of the games are coming to, like, let's see what we got. Are coming to Game Pass, which is just absolutely nuts. Microsoft, when they bought Bethesda, just like securing, obviously, the likes of Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls, Doom, The Evil Within, and yeah, I will say The Evil Within just because no one else does. But just getting these games coming to Xbox Game Pass, it's like they basically were saying, look, we're winning this console war this generation, because keep in mind, the Xbox, the original one, it beat the GameCube sales-wise worldwide. It was absolutely trounced by the PS2. In Japan, the Xbox always loses. Always loses. Doesn't stand a chance. Maybe they're trying to put in a huge effort, but it doesn't seem like these are the games that appeal to Japanese players still. So it'd be interesting just to see how Xbox, if you take the Japan equation out of it, but obviously Japan is where the Nintendo, Sony, Sega, and a lot of these machines have come from traditionally. Not the biggest country in the world, not the biggest population or biggest sales potential there, but it always feels like, because that's the origin of a lot of these consoles, that it's one of the important markets. They'll talk about Japanese sales, US sales, Europe sales. And you could obviously break these down by countries in Europe and then other places of the world, South America. Obviously, I don't really know what happens in South America, actually. Let's scratch that one. Australia, but wherever else. Often they'll put Australia in with Europe just because their TV standard at least was PAL, same as ours. But when you think that Xbox 360 was doing better than the PS3 for some time, but I think in the end the PS3 overtook it, but they both lost to the Wii. The Xbox One absolutely got destroyed by the PS4, and obviously it would have then beaten the Wii U, but counting the strange cross-generation console that the Switch is that the same generation as the PS4, or is it the same generation as the PS5? Is it both? When are we about to hear about Switch Pro or Switch 2 or something? Or if we hear about the Switch 2 in a year's time, and then it's still a competitor to the PS5 and Xbox Series X, what generation is the Switch basically? But obviously the Switch has done better competitively against the Xbox One for the last few years. But just the amount of Bethesda game series, which are all such highly regarded games, having this come out for the Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Series X, and then so many of them not for the PS5. The fact that, you know, Doom 2018, Doom Eternal, whatever the sequel will be, Doom 3, even though it's like Doom 8 or Doom 5 or whatever it should be, Doom 6 in fact, that will be an Xbox exclusive. It's like, wow, Doom and Halo on the same system, you know, the Elder Scrolls and just everything, Fallout, all these things, huge franchises, And let's see what else we got from them. There was one more big exclusive they announced. I forget what it was, to be honest. What did you announce, Bethesda? Let's just bring up the Bethesda website. Didn't write this down in my notes. What a silly Billy. And their website's useless. You go to the Bethesda and they don't think to announce their news. Starfield, Redfall. So summer 2022. Arcane Outsiders producing this. Watch the trailer. Oh my god, they want me to put in my date of birth again. So let's put this in, and boom, boom, boom. Let's see, can we actually see this trailer just to be able to talk about it? So this was vampire action from Bethesda. Now, lots of people looked at this and they were like, oh yes, they're making Fortnite. Now, the graphics obviously are a bit more stylized. The trailer was fun, and we got a lot of fun trailers like yesterday. It's what a lot of things, everything goes meta nowadays. So everything's just like self-referential, doesn't take itself too seriously. This looks really fun though. Just lots of shooter action, vampires, something. Obviously, vampires, zombies, werewolves, these things come in waves of what's the in monster at the moment. And maybe this is a sign that vampires are coming back. I feel like werewolves have been a thing for a little while. Zombies has been a thing for a long while. They were something that came back big in the late 90s. They went away a little bit. They came back big again. Obviously, we've just had the Army of the Dead movie. But there we have it. Vampires Redfall. I'm sure this is going to be great. We're still a long way away from its release. So I expect they're going to take on a lot of feedback. If people weren't happy with the graphics, they will tweak them and improve them. But, oops, there we go. Knocking a trailer again. There we have it. That was the Xbox and Bethesda E3 2021 breakdown of everything. So many exclusives for me. Like, obviously Sony aren't participating in E3 this year. Like in previous years, obviously there's still going to be a lot of PS5 games shown across like Ubisoft and Square Enix and other things like that. But we'll see what Nintendo come up with. But like this, regardless of anything, I think it would be very hard to say that Microsoft, Xbox haven't won the E3 presentation this year. So make sure, guys, that you smash that subscribe button over on youtube.com/Extreme Improv. There's going to be loads more podcasts which you can either listen to on the Extreme Improv YouTube channel. Of course, you can just subscribe to this on your favourite podcast platform. This is the Games Monster podcast from Extremed. So that's XSTREAMED. So it's like streamed, as if you streamed a video game but with an X at the front. X streamed. And you can go to the website extremed.tv, where we're showing off lots of trailers and reactions to all the stuff happening at E3 2021. We have all kinds of other gaming stuff there, classic, current, retro, it's all good. We've just put out some articles this week breaking down like every Sega console of all time for our retro fans, and then of course we're doing live blogs and podcasts on everything from E3 this year. But that's not all. If you're a wrestling fan, then do check out Extreme.tv. Check out our Geek Battle show on the YouTube channel, Slam Jam Wrestling Show, Extreme Improv, Extreme Short Form Comedy. Follow us on all of the platforms. And until next time, stay safe, always stay extremed, and ciao for now.